The idea of SaaS CMSs, the costing is out of control. Like Contentful, you're out of control with your pricing. And so all of them are out of control with their pricing. And just like this idea of like start free and then pay a fuck ton of money. Nobody needs any of that. Yo,
What were you saying? What were you saying?
What was I saying? Yeah. I was like, yeah. Let's talk about it, dude. It's another episode of SaaS Killers, and today we're not coming after just SaaS, because I posed the question on LinkedIn. What did you want to see us do? I had the CMS on there, I had the CRM on there, and I had email sending on there, email marketing. And the overwhelming winners were CMS and email marketing. I'm taking on CMS today because I have talked about killing or building a better CMS for 10 years now. And I was on a rant saying they all suck. WordPress sucks, Contentful sucks, Sanity sucks, Payload sucks. Every single one of them
they're all garbage.
Sucks on some metric. Webflow.
Usually about the cost of it.
Well, first of all, yeah, the idea of SaaS CMSs, the costing is out of control. Like Contentful, you're out of control with your pricing. And so all of them are out of control with their pricing. And just like this idea of like start free and then pay a fuck ton of money. Nobody needs any of that. Look, WordPress, you're lovers of WordPress. SEOs love WordPress. That's it. It's not a good CMS. It has shown its age for 10 years. It is still in existence despite its age. And I'm not afraid to say it. I'm tired of having to pretend to like WordPress. It's no good either. Drupal, no good. All of it. And I've used every single one of these. I started my career building Joomla and WordPress sites. The funny thing is WordPress like kind of hasn't changed since I started, with the exception of Gutenberg, which half the people don't even use the damn feature Gutenberg anymore. And then you throw Elementor in there and it's a whole nother mess.
So what do you think? Because I have used all of these platforms too. I haven't built on them. I have published on all of them. Right? So like as a marketer, I've had to sit on every single one of these platforms. They're all relatively the same. They all require some level of education to try and figure out how to use the damn thing. They all have their quirks. They all have their missing pieces. They all have their wish list. So when you kind of just cut out the bullshit, what makes for a really good basic content management system that most people require but are defaulting to these either heavily customizable or heavily bloated platforms that just own the market share?
Yeah, so I think that you have to take features from all of these things and bring them in. Like, let's just take WordPress, for example. I could talk a lot about what it does wrong, which is namely it's stuck in the world of pages and posts. And the abstraction that they created was very much for blogging, and everybody has kind of stretched it to extend to everything with like custom post types, and which turns into a little bit of a mess. And then the deployment strategy is also a bit problematic, especially when we talk about working in the age of AI. But what does it do well? Well, SEO is kind of an amazing thing with WordPress, and I think a lot of that is due to Yoast and the community that's been built up around that. So I would love to take that as a piece, because I think that if you're using your CMS to power websites, that is something I'd love to take. Another thing that I love about it, there are a lot of like what are called static site generators. And this would be your Jekylls and your Astros and even Next.js to some extent. Now, those can be extended to more places, but static sites are really fast, but they have really long build times. And one of the things people coming from WordPress hate is if you put them on a static site generator, you're like, look at how fast your site is. But they're like, but I'm publishing and trying to preview, and I can't preview my content. This is weird. So WordPress does a really nice job at that preview editor flow. And I think that that is something that you would want to preserve. And that happens when you have database-driven dynamic pages as opposed to the idea of a statically generated site. Now, what doesn't it do well? Markdown has become very important in the world of CMS, especially because that's the language of AI. That is the lingua franca of AI. Everybody's asking us now. They're like, but I want it to support Markdown because I'm just going to give it to an agent to write my pages now. So Markdown is a beautiful thing. Not necessarily the first-class citizen of WordPress, but the first-class citizen of your static site generators. So if we can bring these two things together, that's wonderful. Contentful, as you know, supports Markdown. So does Payload. So do the Headless, the modern Headless CMSs support these things, which is great. And they have really, really flexible schemas. Also really awesome. But you end up in some weird situations with Markdown, which is, what if I want to insert like an ads bar in the middle of an article? And then you get things like MDX and then you got to do like this React, this like bridging between the code and the content. So then you get into the world of rich text editors, which Contentful introduced, and Sanity and Content Stack, and all of them have a rich text editor where you can insert blocks. So does Payload. But now you move away from Markdown, and now your content is less portable. If I want to move away from Contentful, much harder to do. I can't get out of that ecosystem anymore because I end up with a content migration problem, which is always, always painful. And Markdown really does solve content migration in a big way. So what can we do? Do we combine the concept of shortcodes from WordPress with Markdown and have something? So I think there's a problem space there that I'd like to solve. I mentioned a bunch of things.
Well, I have some questions real quick.
Yeah. Throw it in there.
Things that I think have become challenges that just like we go like this. One of them is like we have a Jekyll site. Long Island Technologists is a Jekyll site. I'm in the agent and just throw that shit over the wire. That to me, like the death of the GUI episode we've talked about in the past, like if I think about how people like me that are non-technical want to be able to manage a site, I want to stay within the confines of the design system. But I really don't want to build pages anymore. I don't want to like drag this element over there. I don't even want to use the Markdown to like declare sections. I don't want to worry about divs. I don't worry about call to action placement. I just want to like give the thing to the thing and let it go. So that's one. The other thing is you're starting to see like the requirement of different types of content models. So you might have like long form page content. Think about like your blog. Mm-hmm. I might have an e-commerce component. So you see this constantly in our Shopify builds where you're very, very traditionally an e-commerce customer, but now you want to take advantage of SEO in long form. And so that's like the problem of having like your blog.subdomain, because I need to be able to control the blog experience outside of the capability of platforms like Shopify. I just want one simple world that kind of obfuscates away from the drag and drop editor, that comes away from like the need to, style a page or use component blocks or whatever. I'm getting more and more interested in the death of the GUI. I'm fully in my agent. I'm an educated individual as to what I want to see on the page. Let's just have a conversation about where I want this stuff to display and what I need from my web experience and obfuscate all the technical difficulty. So those are two big things that we are competing with at the moment. And then you get a mature company that wants to take on a new problem and you're like, well, Webflow can't do that, or whoever you choose.
So you bring up a very interesting point, and this is a balance. So Lee Robinson put that article out where he goes, I built a CMS that's just like you described. It's agentic only. Jekyll is wonderful. I love Jekyll. We do a bunch of static sites on Jekyll. One of the things I like about Jekyll too is it's very stable. It's not like trying to move a million miles a minute in another direction where like the site won't deploy one day. It's really a very stable. It's static. But you run into this issue of your publish workflows are not so great with Jekyll. You think you want to only work in the agent, but let's just talk about what happened to Long Island Technologists a few weeks ago.
Botched.
Brick the whole thing because the agent goes, well, I'm going to follow Justin's direction. And when Justin says, I don't care about the design system, I want this new design system, you threw a bunch of things in there and it didn't work out so well and you didn't know how to unfuck yourself.
That's right.
And so you were like, oop. So
my scenario was a little different. I was trying to take a very, very, very simple Jekyll site. I tried to remake an entirely new design in V0, not putting together in my brain that like, oh, that's in Next.js and not just going to like directly migrate over. And so I messed myself up. But in the right world where I'm in a CMS powering a website with a design system, I shouldn't even be able to. The agent should challenge me and say, hey, we're not going to break the design system. Here's a
We
conversation.
still want that. You
Yeah.
still want designed components that a designer puts together. You want the ability to actually go with hey, I have no design. Can you build me a bunch of what I would say are blocks and sections that adhere to this color scheme? Like, you like that. Like, I love that V0 type flow, but I also love the idea of here's a Figma. I want to build this, and I do have, and we know that is a requirement to have very strong aesthetic design systems. Those are not going anywhere.
Now, let me ask you another question, because on my personal site, I've also done this on quite a few other sites, just like V0 to production.
Yes.
And I'm using V0, which is likely not the most cost effective, not the scalable version, but I'm using V0 as a CMS. So if I want to go to my personal Cousin Justin site, cousinjustin.com, and if I want to make a change to that page, just like I would log into a CMS, I'd go to that model, I would choose that section, I'd make my update and publish it. I'm literally just giving the change request to the V0 agent. I might even include like a little screenshot just so it goes exactly where I wanted to make the change. And I'm using V0 as a very light, GUI obfuscated CMS. Now, what's the problem with doing that? And why doesn't that scale? And why can't that just be like the CMS experience of the future?
That works when your website's one page. If you have thousands of pages, as our website does, and articles, or if you're like the New York Times, you can't just like do it that way, right? So it becomes a very, very different scenario. So you do want the idea of structured articles, pages. Some sites have different types of articles, guides, and blog posts. You want the ability to have that flexibility, which is why headless CMSs became such an awesome thing. Is they allowed you to define. Let's talk about Contentful for a second and why it's great. It allowed you to define a content model, and it allowed you to not do that in code, whereas Payload has you do that in code, and we can talk about the trade-offs of that. It allowed you to just do that in the GUI, and then suddenly you had forms that you could fill out with these different content modules, and those got served to APIs as JSON. So now you could consume that and build whatever front end you want. However, I think the disjointed CMS from the front end is something that is not desirable in the age of AI. I think you want the ability to say, write me a new article, and the AI knows to put that in the post collection, and or whatever you call your collection, and then for that to be served through, and for it to create template pages, and for all of that to live in one place. And I also think there's a beauty to like the way we build Payload sites now. Payload can be operated as a headless CMS or not. It's really nice to be able to say, hey, I want to deploy this like WordPress, like to Vercel, to Flyo, to DigitalOcean, wherever I want to deploy it, connect it to a database. Dare I say I'm a big fan of SQLite these days, especially because I think that you can deploy the whole stack into a single server, and you can host it for a very minimal cost, which is one other hallmark of WordPress. I mean, you can get WordPress hosting for like $2.99 or something like that, like $2 a month. Like, that's a pretty big draw. You could get some pretty cheap hosting for these sites, and that is also something that's pretty awesome. Different point though. You talked a little bit about e-commerce, which is like typically these platforms have been separated.
Yes.
You have your e-commerce platform and you have your content platform, and then you try and bridge them together. That was another big drive for Headless, and we've done this also, which is you build like a website, and then you have your content coming from a headless CMS, and then you have your e-commerce, which could be a Shopify, it could be a BigCommerce, it could be Avenger, it could be any of that, all coming together to kind of build to this like single front end. And I think that has a lot of advantages, but once again, you get to your disadvantages in that if you're trying to do more agentic stuff, now the agent needs to have access to 3 different things. And we're seeing this world where people are moving back towards the monolith, the single code base that does it all, because this is what's better for agents to work in. I would argue it's been better for humans to work in too for a long time. I was never a big fan of the microservices movement. It was great when you had like all these different teams, but it's not great as a solo dev to have to like coordinate deployments between different services. So all that is to say, there's a lot of really good features that the modern CMS could have. And we just discussed a whole bunch of them here.
Well, I think in the nature of this is going to turn into an episode series of killing the modern CMS. And I think it's really about building the future of website management solutions. And I think that website is a little bit more inclusive than just content management. And the reason why I say website is because what is a website these days? There are lots of businesses that want to do all of these things. They want to be a web application. They also want to sell merch as an e-commerce store. They also want to have a blog and news section, right? Yada, yada, yada. So it's the future of website management. And so now we should move into a bit of an initial planning phase. How would we even get started? You're boiling a heck of an ocean here. And
well,
where do we begin?
Let's talk about our scope, right? Because WordPress started with the idea of they wanted to build blogs, and then it grew into other things. I think if you limit your scope to what do you want, you've spoken at length, it's a website solution. I think if you kind of bring your abstraction down, that helps a lot. That really helps a lot, actually, because now you're kind of working in a narrower space. Do we want to avoid e-commerce? I think for the start we do. I think that there's a world where, like, if we open source this, one of the other things that WordPress offers is like a plugin ecosystem. We could offer a way for people to just plug their own payment processors, and like you could have something that's purchasable on the site. Will it be as robust as a specialized e-com solution? Probably not, but it'll be pretty general.
Well, why don't we do this? Let's, as we usually do, I'm not picking on anybody. I can't really share customer work, but we can of course share our own stuff. We are powered, Cause of a Kind is powered, Fin Forecasting is powered by two different CMS platforms. Fin Forecasting is powered by Payload. Causeofakind.com is powered by Contentful. Why don't we stay within those two verticals? One is a SaaS and one is just a content marketing site. And so why don't we stick within those two verticals? We can even stick like just in content marketing site. And we've talked about this for some time. We are one of those organizations that have been using the very generous free tier of Contentful for years. And then all of a sudden, because of the amount of content that we have, we're being tipped into a paid tier that requires me to evaluate if I'm going to continue my partnership with Contentful, move elsewhere, and then what is the cost of moving. And so I think we target our own business, and eventually my goal is at the end of this segment, we will have migrated away from Contentful for causeofakind.com into uncontentful. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe we'll call it unmanagement system.
Man, that's a little too close for legal matters.
No, like I said, if you're running
the UMS.
The un-MS, so to speak. Yeah, the un-CMS, the new. So this is great. Why don't we start with, like you said, let's start with like, we rattled off a bunch of things that we think would make the most premium CMS experience. So I'm going to share my screen as we normally do. And what we're going to do is let's go into Claude. Let's go into entire screen, output to share. Let's go into Claude as I like to do. I always kind of like to start here with all of my ideas. Back at it, Mike. Let's sit here and let's begin with we're looking to build an open source CMS solution for today that is both flexible and AI enabled. We're going to be taking the best features from a number of solutions like WordPress, Contentful, Payload, CMS, and others to craft the best CMS we can craft. Something like that. All right, let's just talk about features. We talked about a whole bunch of them.
I also want to remind you, we also can use Claude very consultatively. Claude is aware of every detail of every single one of these platforms, including ones that we're unable to mention. We've used a million. Like Prismic comes to mind from years ago. We used Prismic.
Yeah.
There are many that do some amazing things that are out there. But I also think if we could get Claude to be a little bit consultative or even research what does the world say are the best common features out of these. But whatever. But I agree. I definitely do want to create a little bit of a list of the brilliant basics of content management.
Well, one of the things we talked about was using Markdown. We want this for sure. We want our content to be portable using Markdown. And so that AI can effectively author content for users. However, we do want flexibility where different styled components can be inserted into the content. It should be possible to migrate content as Markdown only, though, to other places and platforms to avoid the lock-in of rich text editors. I have some ideas around this. I'm intentionally going to not give Claude more direction around this because I have an idea that's been brewing in my head to make Markdown almost more like an MDX. If you guys have used it's Markdown with React components, something similar that could make it portable where you could export it but without those extra components is what I'm thinking, where you can pull the content out and avoid that. But let's let Claude kind of make some suggestions, because this is one of those things where Claude has more knowledge than I have of the universe of things available to it in some ways. So I want to let it give me suggestions. We also loved the idea of a headless CMS. It should support both an API as well as a kind of front end on top solution, right? I think I'm going to go with REST API too instead of GraphQL or others. I think we keep it pretty standard here. REST API slash JSON API, because in reality, you're going to need to support things like includes, and we need to think about this, but we'll get back because there's issues of circular JSON that start to come up when you have objects that reference that may point back to the same object. So this happens with headless CMSs. I'm just going to put in here, need to think about circular references in this case. What else do we want? We talked about Yoast SEO, right? So
that's another one to take down in SaaS Killers at some point. We've always talked about that, making the portable Yoast SEO.
WordPress, so that things like sitemaps, robots.txt, and all your meta tagging and sharing thumbnails are editable and fully accounted for. We definitely want those things. What else do we want? We want contact forms, right? That's another big one that Contentful doesn't do, which you can create a model for it and post into it, but it's kind of painful. I think contact forms is, and WordPress does something called gravity forms or buy a plugin. But I do think that every website wants contact forms. Payload is nice because I make a model and we can connect it, but I don't know if this is really possible. You see this in some platforms, but the ability to see the data, your analytics, for example, not just being married to GA or some type of a third-party solution, have a CMS proper analytics experience. You see that in Shopify. In Shopify,
they'll provide those types of things. I just think that data is valuable. You need various access management. I love the controllability of roles in some of these platforms. Threw it over the wire.
I forgot Shift Enter. Oh well. You're right though. Let's add some more access control, right?
Yeah.
We want draft, the ability to see drafts and previews.
Yes.
And timed publishing.
Yes.
And timed publishing.
Yes.
And scheduled publishing. Yeah.
Yeah, don't glaze over that preview plane. That's like one of the most painful things. I gotta set up a staging environment for lots of these headless tools.
Yeah.
That's kind of annoying. I just want to like live in the UI. Just give me a little preview mode.
What else do we want to add? What else?
I think you need asset management, like image and video storage, different types of asset types, SVG files, PNG files, GIFs, just like general storage. But also, this is a point. This is a point of cost that we would take on, that lots of these platforms use as the impetus to increase subscription costs. So this thinking creatively about this storage of these types of assets at the platform level, especially this, like if this is open source, do I tie in my own Cloudinary or something like that? Like how do I do this? But
right, you could do that.
Yeah, like why do I have to pay for Contentful's asset storage? While I'm on the topic of assets, the ability to edit assets from within the CMS, so I don't have to be proficient in a third-party tool like Photoshop or Canva or ask AI to edit an image. Just be able to do things like aspect ratios, cropping. Like little simple editing features. I've always found those to be valuable in the CMS solutions.
Choosing a focal point. This is all important. Yeah, I forget this Umbraco CMS does something like this, but yeah, that's a good point. It's asking another things I want to worth deciding on. The AI authoring angle goes deeper than just content as Markdown. If you want AI to effectively author content, you'd want a content schema definition that the AI can target. Something like generate a blog post with these fields. The structured component systems mean you could even prompt AI to generate content with component blocks, since the tag syntax is learnable. You could build content generation pipeline where AI drafts and Markdown the system, validates and editor reviews in a preview pane. This is very true. The multi-tenancy question is one CMS per install, or do you want to support multiple sites from one instance? I think one CMS per install personally. I think multiple. We've done the multi-tenant for sure.
I was just gonna say, dude, man, does that like bring up some pain from years ago? You also don't really see that use case super often. We don't have that. Like if I just think about replacing the surface area we were talking about, causeofkind.com or FinForecast using payload or something like that, I don't have the need for that at the moment. Call that a point.
I don't either. Yeah. I don't love that either, yeah. And then again, the plugins and extensions perhaps can be managed by just letting people who can code these custom into the system, which should be built on some kind of open source framework.
I got another.
Our preference is Rails. No surprise, but this could, if someone else was building this, you could do this for Laravel. You could, I would use some kind of framework. Let developers build their own custom solutions into it.
Something else that would be beneficial. Take the idea of templates, not really design themes, like template basic page structures to get me started. I think one of the things that we do really well, because we've done this how many times? North of 50 times the team has built on headless products.
Yeah.
Like we know where to begin. So a template library of content models, not necessarily a theme library of design comps.
Well, that's very interesting. Yeah. What about a library of content models? Yeah. Common content models.
Yeah, just think about, the greatest hits of website experiences. You want to make a blog. There's like a couple of freaking ways to make a blog that are going to be really
testimonials.
Right.
Or reviews.
Exactly.
Or a product.
You might want a carousel. You might want whatever. How to make a button package or whatever, right? How-tos, like frequently asked questions and how-to accordions are common and constant. But I think to just get people started, because one of the hardest things to do with this is like, where do I even begin? What's the first content model I make? Is it the header of the homepage? Like, where do I even begin? Man, this is cathartic. This is cathartic, just like getting the best of the CMS experience out of my brain.
Yeah, no,
The things I like.
this is the time, dude. This is the time. If we're gonna rebuild stuff, this is what I say when people are like, I'm just gonna rebuild the thing that exists. Listen, if we're gonna do it, we might as well get rid of all the stuff we don't like.
That's right.
And we might as well just try and do it from scratch. Just rethink it from first principles almost.
That's right.
What else? What else?
I want the ability to easily access version control, like the ability to revert, but also like a change log would be really, really nice. At the content level, like be able to preview old versions without deploying it. I also don't want to have to go to version control in like a GitHub to see a visual change that was made. That's annoying.
That's very important. And that's one of the reasons static sites sort of falter is you do have to do that through GitHub. But one of the nicer things about Contentful and even Pay is being able to like hit that old version and seeing exactly what field changed and say, revert just this field.
Yes. Right. That also brings me back into like the basics of A/B testing. Like why can't that just live in the CMS proper? What do I need a third party for that? And A/B testing in a way that's not super reliant on traffic. It's more like, hey, for this region, this is the experience. For, this ICP, this is the experience. Like, I don't mean really A/B testing from like a critical data perspective, which converts higher. I mean, that might be part of it, but I really just mean like flexibility to have multiple experiences. I don't know how much simpler to explain that.
Well, I don't even want to get into location based because that's a whole nother world. I'm thinking just a simple coin flipper, A and B. Half get this, half get that.
Sure.
That's a big one because people really, those A/B testing solutions are very expensive, very annoying, and for a lot of people, they don't need the crazy robustness of a lot of this stuff. They just want to test. Hey, I want to test this copy against this copy and just show me roughly what's happening.
That's right. What about, did we get into like sharing public links to like non-technical stakeholders or?
The ability to share a draft link to a.
It's a preview link, really.
Yeah, well, we have the ability to preview. I guess the ability to have somebody come into so the ability...
Or not have to come into the CMS to just be able to see it in the browser.
Maybe a timed preview link, a timed obfuscated... That Shopify does this.
Yeah. We're staying away from the e-commerce solution, but like some of these like an ability to have simple integrations. I'm not even
basic
really
integrations with GA, right?
Correct. Like basic integration structure. GA is a perfect one. My brain went to ShipStation, but we're not doing e-commerce. But like just basic integrations. Squarespace does a great job of this, like just basic integrations.
Yeah, I think that's it. GA, meta ads. What's another? I mean, those are really the two big ones that everyone wants is GA and meta ads, but like TikTok ads. Yeah,
you need like maybe your Google Search Console, like all that kind of comes back to that GA pixel, especially if you're using Google Tag Manager. And less important if you're going to be providing me with in-platform analytics, but people are definitely going to want to have those, just like one click, load your tag, push it to the head. That is another one, like a simple ability to address the head and the body.
Yeah, I mean, or add CSS. I don't even know if we need that because I feel like, again, with AI, you're going to have the ability.
Now, let me ask you a question about in the vein of like...
I'm going to add this to Claude because
cool.
we just rattled off a million things.
A lot. In the vein of having a little bit of control over taxonomy. I mean, like slugs and URL directories. Do we feel like I don't use that very often?
That is a common SEO.
It's a common thing to play with. What is the value of it? I'm not sure if we're contemplating the value of that, but is that a feature that people need?
If an SEO wants to use this, they will tinker with this.
I have
never ever seen this make one goddamn bit of difference on any website ever. And it drives me up a wall. But you know what? You bring up another thing. Redirects.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Ingesting a large 301 redirect map.
Yeah, or even just manual redirects.
301 redirects on slug changes.
Yep.
Need to be tracked and automatic. This, like WordPress, because that's a very, very common thing.
Well, if you're gonna get into those types of things, do you do rel canonical? Do you get into other referencing?
That's all part of the SEO solution, being able to define all that stuff. So that I think we've already talked about. But you did bring the ability to, how do we want to do? It would be great have a system in the version where people deploy a template to be able to edit the entire URL path in some way, shape, form. For example, I have a collection called posts that I want to have the URL path be /articles/posts or /posts/category/ This is a complicated feature, but a very common pain point in most CMSs. And it really does require creative coding, and it's super, super annoying. It's pulling together a ton of awesome information for us.
Do we want the ability to put in API keys? And my brain specifically went to, you can use any agent platform that you would want to. I don't need to provide you with an agent. Link up your OpenAI if you want.
They're AI LLM API keys. So using the Ruby LLM gem, I'm thinking we could let them use an assistant agent of their choice in the CMS. That's really important, I think. It's so funny how it's this is 6 to 8 months of work. We'll see. We'll see. Well,
another thing is, how many times in our career have we gotten an AI file that's PDF'd and we have to build off of an AI file, off of a PDF file? Is there something you could use with Ruby OCR gem you made to be able to feed it a design package in PDF?
I would say that since this is open source and coded, you can just do that yourself. That's where I would sort of draw the line of that's not going to be a CMS. This isn't going to be a V0 where you're going to design.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I would say that gets really complicated. There was something else I was thinking of in the vein of these. You did talk about API key generation.
Yep.
For accessing the REST API, and then we also needed something else. Webhook support.
Yep. I could also really use a comprehensive fuzzy search tool.
Yeah.
This is a lot, dude. This is a lot.
Just stick within the confines. This is important though. We may not get to all of this, but we're going to build a plan with our wish list. But again, this is where this is the messy part of ideation. Oh man, there was something else I was thinking of. Oh, it was it comes up all the time. Hang on, before you mentioned comprehensive fuzzy search, it was API keys, webhooks. Those are important. The other thing I was thinking of was I like to define your own LLM. Man, why can't I think of it now? 301 redirects are always painful.
I mean, DNS changes are always a thing, but I don't think you're going to include
that's not through this. That's not this. Yeah, that's its own thing. We could create a hosting solution for this, like the way the WP Engine does for WordPress. That's for sure. But that's not going to be a part of this. Trying to think of what else. There's email sending, right? Email, which is all handled by Rails, though.
You probably need some like basic uptime monitoring. All these have like basic outage monitoring, public facing on the marketing website. It's all like later though.
That's all going to be in your analytics though. Like there, you'll have like a slash, like, you know, to be supported via, I would just do like a slash, like slash up endpoint, so that there's like some kind of like, you can just ping it with node ping or something like that at the slash up endpoint. The ability to, let me try and think what else. I feel like we have a lot.
It is a lot.
I think we can, let's send this over.
It is quite a bit. And dude, href, language changes.
But that was it, multi-language support.
Multi-language support has always been a freaking problem. Yeah. And you know what another one is, always comes up, is ADA compliance.
That I'm less concerned with.
In the vein
that
of
I'm less concerned with, because that's kind of on you to do, like, from the as the theme editor, people who develop themes for this are going to have to worry about that. Now, we could do like some kind of an ADA auditing, but again, I think you start to get like, of the things that a CMS needs, that can be done somewhere else. But multi-language support is very important. Would be extra cool if you could add a language and an LLM could translate existing content. I do like how Content handles multi-language. I think we got to add that to it also. That's for sure a thing. And it would become, like I said, it'd become a nightmare to retrofit. You don't want to mess that up where this is it. It's EN my post versus F. Yeah. You want to get this right. I do feel like we're approaching the final thing.
You could do other little things, which is, it would be fantastic if this happens differently in different platforms, but it would be fantastic if you could like manage robot txt file or the.
Well, we talked about that. We did talk about that. Yeah, so that would, I thought so too, because that's always something you got to ask a developer for, and I'm always like, why? Like
XML.
Same thing. Because that was one of the first things. Sitemap XML, the ability to kind of edit all of that through the platform would be very, very awesome.
That'd be great.
The idea, dude, the ultimate CMS, man. Localized forms, oh man, yeah.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to do a lot. But I'm not gonna subject our viewers to this, but I do want to read everything here.
Yeah.
And I do want to go through. And I'm gonna have it produce us more of a comprehensive plan, just like you've always seen me do, which is this is the shaping phase in like a shape up style workflow where I'm just putting everything in there. And we're going to have to make a whole bunch of decisions here on what we like and what we don't like. And we're going to have to build a multi-phased plan that AI can then execute on the build out of. And we're going to check each step. Will this take 68 weeks? No, it will not. I can tell you that. But I love how AI puts its estimates out there. Will it take many weeks to iron out all the bugs in a system like this? Maybe, you and I are going to have to deploy a website with it, and we're going to have to bang on it and, to knock all the cobwebs out. But I do think that we're onto something here with our wish list.
Well, dude, I think this is a great place to end the episode. I think the next thing that we're going to do is you'll transform this into a nice plan. And the next time that we'll record another episode on this is when we have something visual that we can start to play with. But death of the CMS, I love it. The
death of the CMS. It's time.
Sick. All right, dude. Happy building. Talk to you later.
See you soon.
Peace. SaaS Killers out.